Hello, everyone. I'm Jean-Claude at Beyond Mystic, and welcome to this very special report for the death of the petrodollar. With me today is Mr. Bo Polny. You can find his work at gold2020forecast.com and here on YouTube at gold2020forecast. Mr. Bo Polny, welcome back to the show.
Jean-Claude, as always, an absolute pleasure speaking with you. Thank you for having me here. I think it's just a really unique opportunity to speak with you, as you're, very well rehearsed in a lot of facets of different people that you speak with, and you really do a great job in putting it together. So thank you for having me a part of that.
Well, thank you for being here, and thank you for that great comment. I appreciate that. I work hard at this. So thank you so much, everyone, for joining us today. We do apologize. We were a little bit late on the start. Life intervenes, and, things happen. So we're here today, and we have this very special report for you guys. And, of course, it all centers around this agreement between Saudi Arabia and Russia that we saw in the news yesterday. Now, Andy Scheckman and I discussed this on the show yesterday on the weekly Precious Metals Report, and we both signaled to the audience here that this is a big turning point in our world. There's many ramifications to all of this, perhaps some that have not yet been seen or yet understood. And this is why I'm so excited to have Bo Polny on the show here today to put that in context with the timeline analysis that he's been providing us here over the last couple of months and see where we go from here. So, Bo, why don't you set that up? In our last presentation, you talked about that Nixon moment, and of course, we hit that 50th anniversary. Let's start there for the audience who might not be aware of what we're talking about, and then we'll move into this agreement here between Saudi Arabia and Russia.
Right. So probably the best place to start is, if this is going to be biblical, we're always supposed to see key events happen on specific dates. That doesn't mean that, we see the fall of the dollar in August, for example, right? But you're supposed to see, we had August 24th, per our last, I think, a couple interviews, Jean-Claude, how August 24th was supposed to be a pivotal tipping point. And so you can see that on the chart that we've got there on page 13. So it basically describes that is a specific and critical tipping point. So if that's a tipping point, what does that mean? It means that it's by the time, and so on November 22nd, that's 180 days or 180 degrees. By that time, you've fallen on your face. You get it? So imagine at 90 degrees is the tipping point. And by the time you hit 180 degrees, this whole thing's fallen on its face. So in other words, it's fallen apart.
Mm-hmm.
So it's the timing is truly spectacular, because who would have known in our last interview that on August 24th, Saudi Arabia and Russia sign a military pact? Come on, that's historic. Mm-hmm. This is it's you have to understand, if they sign an agreement, what is an agreement? What, by definition, contract is an agreement. So an agreement is a contract between two parties, and both parties need to provide consideration, because that's what a contract is. Go study contract law. Each party provides consideration. Well, what's the consideration? They're not telling you.
Mm-hmm.
But what would be the consideration? Well, let's think about from Saudi Arabia. What do they have? They have oil. So what is their consideration to the contract? Oil. Well, now if Russia would enter this contract, what are they going to offer? Military might. But why would they do that?
That's interesting. Let's step back here to this Nixon moment.
Right. Why would they do that?
Right.
Unless they're getting something out of it, because Russia's not going to come protect Saudi Arabia for nothing in the deal.
Right.
So they're going to get consideration from Saudi Arabia, which is what? Oil. Okay, but this is a huge problem. So now before we talk further about this, let's just talk about history.
Right.
Because history repeats. So I want to give you three. I was thinking about this last night. I want to give you three examples, Jean-Claude, of history and the US dollar and what happens. Okay, so let's think about Venezuela and Chavez. Okay, none of this is made up. Please do your research, Jean-Claude. I know you already know it, but other people can do their research and look at the deep knowings of why these things went down. So in Venezuela, they're impoverished. Their country's destroyed right now. But in the time of Chavez, Venezuela was a very prosperous country, full of oil, riches. Okay, and what did Chavez want to do? He decided he was done with the bankers. And so what did he want to do? He wanted to offer the sale of his oil for gold. Well, that didn't really turn out well, did it?
No.
What do? They invaded the country. They took the currency. They removed 3 zeros off of it. So every, 1,000 Venezuelan dollars, it turned into $1. So that's what happened. When you remove 3 zeros, you turn 1,000 into $1. So that's what they did to Venezuela. Look at the country right now. It's destroyed. It's cursed.
Right.
It's one example. Now this is made up. It happened. Okay. Now let's look at Saddam Hussein. Okay. So what happened with Saddam Hussein? So Saddam Hussein in Iraq decided, because they were doing great, Saddam Hussein decided to sell his oil for what? For the dinar. Well, that didn't turn out too well either. They invaded that, came in, took the currency, removed 3 zeros, so turned 1,000 dinar into 1 dinar. And now you have an impoverished country. Boom. That's the second example. Let's do a third example here in the US. And you can, and your viewers, go to eBay. Type in the word silver certificate. What do you find? You're going to find that JFK turned on the bankers, decided that he's going to actually create a valued money. So he's going to back the US dollar with silver. So you can right now on eBay buy, and they're just memorabilia now, but you can buy silver certificates. They look just like a $1 bill, but the very top says silver certificate. How did that turn out for JFK?
Not so good.
Not so good. And then he was cursed too, and his family. Look what happened to his son. So this is what happens when you go against the grain.
You can add one more to that. I know that was just 3 examples. We have one more, but Gaddafi was the same thing. He wanted to introduce his gold dinar and also sell his oil for gold, and didn't work out so well for him either.
Yeah. So all of these countries are just great examples of what happens when you go against the dollar. But now we got a problem. We got a really big problem. Well, not we do. They do. Okay. Now they have the 800-pound gorilla they got to contend with called Russia.
Yeah.
Okay. So you just can't go into Russia, trash Russia, remove 3 zeros off the ruble. That's not going to work out so well when you go against a superpower. So God planned this beautifully. Because in order to take down Goliath, which is the dollar, you might need a superpower to help take it down. So now what do? You create an allegiance. And how was the dollar ever funded? Because remember with Nixon, right? That was 50 years ago. Right after that, they go into, right around that time or before that, but right in the 50-year time frame, they go into Saudi Arabia. They say, hey, let's set up a contract. 2 parties, each provide consideration. And so what do the United States offer? We will protect you with military might, and you buy, and we will buy all of your oil in the US dollar for bonds, and and they will accept that. So they got military defense for their oil, and they became one of the wealthiest nations in the world. So now Saudi Arabia, you go to Dubai. Are you kidding me? Who's been to Dubai recently? Are you kidding me? You see what's going on there? So now you got this nation who's got all these military weapons from the United States. And guess what didn't happen? Guess who didn't defend them? Guess who didn't protect them? The United States. So with the lack of defense that just went down in Afghanistan, wouldn't you be a little bit nervous if you were in charge of running Saudi Arabia and you've got this beautiful country, wealthy, beautiful country, and just 1,500 miles away, they got all these weapons. And they
Yep.
weren't defended.
I'd be afraid that this guy would renege on the deal that Nixon made.
Well, that's right. Think about what just happened, right? Wouldn't you be nervous if you were in charge of Saudi Arabia? So what would you do? Well, you're extremely wealthy. You got massive oil reserves. Who would you call? You're in charge of Saudi Arabia. The guy that's supposed to defend you, are you nervous? I don't know. Would you? They just left tons of military weapons, 1,500 miles away-ish, whatever the distance is. Who would you maybe make a phone call to? Hey, Russia, we will offer you all the oil you need. You protect us. How does that? So now you have to ask yourself a question. If that's what happened, and it's a contract, it's an agreement, which means two parties came into an agreement. They're not telling you what the agreement is, but we can only assume that it's a military contract, military agreement. So it's protection for the oil. So that be the case, we're going to have so look at the last examples.
Well, maybe just to add to that, does that also mean that now, if Saudi Arabia is out of the agreement with the United States, that they can now sell their oil in other denominations other than the US dollar?
If you sell it for gold, you get invaded. If you sell it for dinar, you get invaded. If you sell it for the ruble, what do you think's going to happen? Okay, what do you think was in that contract?
Right.
I don't know, but I'm taking a pretty good guess that it had something to do with selling it for the ruble, maybe. What do you think, Jean-Claude? That would be consideration.
Right. And as soon as you open the door to selling oil for anything else than the US dollar, that triggers everybody around the world holding world reserve currencies to say, hey, we don't need this anymore to buy our oil.
And what is the problem in this equation, Jean-Claude? The 800-pound gorilla called Russia. This is not Saudi Arabia that they have to contend with. It's Russia. This is not Venezuela. This is not Iraq or Iran. This is Russia. Mother Russia. They're this, whatever their strength is, I'm just telling you, we're talking a superpower who just signed a contract. So now let's go back to our slide presentation. So how crazy is that event, the takedown of Goliath, because that's really what it is. It's the takedown of Goliath. How do you take down Goliath? With an 800-pound gorilla. What a beautiful piece of work by God. And when the Goliath falls, everything that we've heard, the truth comes out. Truth will set you free. It's what it says in the Bible. Well, the truth will set us free. It'll set God's money, gold, and silver free. Okay. But this entire system that we want and we believe that should be free, we will be set free from the bonds, the mortgages, or, from whatever, however they've created this money system, we'll be set free from it. So the truth will set us free. But on the other end of it is two sides of the coin. The truth will destroy them. Utterly destroy them. So you want to talk about, truth being revealed and what that would entail. We're talking, things that are not supposed to be, that have been hidden for generations. And then when this starts to go down, now, if you are complicit and a part of this process, Jean-Claude, and you see your, people going down all around you, wouldn't you start to sing to save your own hide? Okay.
Absolutely.
So if
the domino effect, I think this is a big domino. Exactly.
Yeah. If you sang to save your own and your family's hide, because you're not one of the big fish, that's what's going to happen. And so this is just going to be horrendous. And this is now important because Goliath won't work anymore because Goliath fell. So the 800-pound gorilla caused Goliath to fall. When Goliath falls, hey, just let me give you all these zeros. But now when that doesn't work anymore, because they don't want the one with all the zeros, they want gold, they want crypto, right?
Mm-hmm.
How does crypto go vertical? The loss of faith and confidence in the current money system. How does gold and silver go vertical? Loss of faith and confidence in the current money system.
Mm-hmm.
So that's how I can best describe how minute that one event is, that they made it to be minute.
Right.
But how
yes, on mainstream news, it's just, they just, they met this an agreement.
Yes.
Nothing to see here.
Nothing to see here. But how huge the event ultimately will trigger. And that's why, I'm saying, September is going to be wild. October is going to be wild plus. And then November, again, I pledged the Kim Clement prophecy, hypnotic November. So all I can tell you is that, and then, they fall. So the prophecy was this of 7 years ago. They fall and follow. Who's they? Well, the ones we just talked about. They've been doing this. They fall and fall, hypnotic November. And you just go back to the very first page of that we had. And then in December, I will make you happy. Well, he's making us happy because it's 180 days or 180 degrees. Goliath has fallen flat on his face. The truth is out because we head into winter. So, and by November 22nd, Goliath has fallen. And so, we might have a return there. And that's a question mark after it. But I tell you, he is a builder. So he will not be here for the fall.
Right.
The fall, he will come in to repair the damages. So dark times are coming to the United States because it has to happen. People have to fall. I have a lot of friends, or a handful of friends, that just, you and I are very awake. Your viewers understand what's going on, Jean-Claude. But I have some friends I can talk to till the cows come home, and they will not listen to they hear, but they don't listen. Right. My words. And the reason I'm late today is because I went to, with one of my family members to the doctor. The conversation wasn't about my family member's health. It started out, it wouldn't stop because he wanted to know, if we got the, and he would not stop talking until he convinced me that I need to get the, and he didn't, he really doesn't know who he was talking to. Right. I was trying to be calm in the whole thing.
Don't you know who I am?
Well, no, it wasn't now who I am. It was just what I know,
Right.
I'm not being arrogant as to who I am. It's what I know, right? What I've learned, what I'm awake to, right? So the thing was, it was just, so it's the gray is gone, Jean-Claude, and the world is upside down and crazy. Yeah. And on the other end of it, many people have now woken up, but there's still much of the world is upside down and crazy. And so the United States has to fall. It has to fall. And so chaos will erupt. The United States will fall. Chaos will erupt. It will look like God abandoned us. It's going to look horrible. Okay. But fear not, because God the Father is in complete control. God Almighty had this all planned out. How do I tell you? Because look at the past cycle points that I've given the world, How does it happen that you have these big events happen on specific days called in advance? Just the last and latest example that we show you of August 24th. How insane is that? And then even before that, we had the Nixon moment, which you wanted to bring up as well, too. You have right there. Okay. Well, that was on August 15th into the 16th. Well, what happened? That was the fall of Kabul. Okay. So why did Kabul fall on the Nixon moment? I'm just telling you, it's not random, but the crazy part was, that was just one confirmation, but now we have August 24th. That's the huge one. That's one of the biggest events in human history in relation to finance. Yeah. When you have the 800-pound gorilla back Saudi Arabia, who apparently has a contract with the United States. So what happened to that contract is what I want to know.
Right.
How can you have two contracts?
Right. Because if you have consideration for one, you probably have to remove it to give it to somebody else.
Right.
So, yeah,
exactly.
Of course, the mainstream media is not going to ask those questions or let us know.
Right. Because just, go study contract law. It's just considerations, and, both parties offer consideration, Right. So what are they offering what consideration did the Saudi Arabia offer that Russia accepted?
Right. In your notes for today, too, you sent me the next date that we're looking at is September 6th. Do we want to talk about that now, or can we maybe
Sure.
take a sidebar just quickly? I mentioned this yesterday in the interview with Andy Sheckman. This was a series produced by Mike Maloney called The Hidden Secrets of Money. And in that, he extrapolated once we lost all the confidence here in the US dollar, which we appear to be at this point now. This was produced in 2013. He was ahead of his time, but he suggested that at some point there would be a mechanism or an event that would force all of these dollars that are outside the United States to come back into the country. Basically, he was saying the chickens would come home to roost, and then we would really see the disaster that was the monetary inflation. Exactly. So let's maybe explain that for the audience a little bit. How do you see that transpiring here in the next little while, based on now this big news that could be that trigger event that causes all of this money to flood back into the country at a time where we're already seeing hyperinflation, even though our governments are trying very hard not to admit it? How does that continue to transpire here for the audience?
Well, again, I'm not a financial analyst, but I can just, from the best explanation I can give, if you just think about, if Saudi Arabia now agreed to sell their oil to Russia for rubles, therefore you don't need the world reserve currency anymore. So immediately, United States will lose the world reserve status or for the currency. So the U.S. dollar would no longer be the world reserve currency. Mm-hmm. And in that case, the world could use other currencies to buy oil with, because everybody has oil runs the world technically. So that's how this has been going down. So if Saudi Arabia, that was in the agreement, which I highly, what are the probability it's not in the agreement would be a better question. Right. Because what else could they have? What else would Saudi Arabia have offered to Russia?
Right.
Right. What else? There was nothing else to offer.
Sand, some sand, maybe. Some people who want to build beach condos and they need sand for their golf courses, maybe. I don't know.
Yeah, come on, I'll give you a free condo, 100 skyline view. You have to think what was offered in the contract. Mm-hmm. What were the odds that wasn't? This is mathematically virtually impossible that wasn't offered. So if now the world doesn't need the liquidity of the dollar, so it's just going to, so it'll be a sell, and the sell means that it fleets, that comes back, so United States dollar wouldn't be a buy, it'd be a sell, then it would come back to the States, and by a sell means, and that would drop the value of the dollar, and a drop in the value of the dollar is what to gold, silver, and crypto. Correct. Yeah. So the opposite. So the dollar trade is an exact opposite trade to gold, silver, and cryptocurrencies. Mm-hmm. So as much as
we could say that it's supposed to be, but because of manipulation right now, it's not evident. But at a certain point here, the rubber hits the road and they can't maintain this influx of money that's coming into the system. I think that could be that catalyst where it really shows that the emperor has no clothes. I mean, we've been seeing that at the comics here for the last little while, but they seem to be able to camouflage with the exchange for physicals in London and all of these shenanigans. But that might be coming to a head here as we get into the fall timing of the season, but also the fall of what we just talked about here.
Yeah, no, exactly. And I think the most powerful slides is what's on 23. I'm sorry, what is on the page following. I think you have is page 13.
13. Okay, hold on a sec. There you go.
And so if you look to the chart, November is like critical and key in terms of time. The world itself is now in a season of evil. So what happened was last November, we went left, not right. We lost so we went away from the biblical covenant. And actually, this is really kind of cool when I did the research on covenant, what it is. So I want to read this to you, but a covenant is a promise in its simplest form. But there's another type of covenant, it's called a biblical covenant. So a biblical covenant is an unconditional, permanent promise, and the promising parties must keep their promise. This is critical, regardless of the other party's breach of their promise. Mm-hmm. But a biblical covenant is a covenant with man and God. So even if man breaches the contract, which we went left in November, not intentionally. People say, well, we didn't choose to go left. Well, yeah, but with all the years of what's been going on, we couldn't, it basically went left because of, all the corruption. So we went left. So we broke our covenant that man is not created equal, because apparently their covenant, their rules are men are not created equal. You got them and then the minions.
Right.
That's not all men are created equal. And you know that to be true. You know, you've got them, the billionaires, trillionaires, and then the minions. And that's how they want the world to live. And that's not all men are not created equal. Biblically, there should be no more than 7 powers of separation between the wealthy and the non-wealthy. But now it's at such extremes, it's ridiculous.
Yeah.
So now what's happened is God. So what happens is when you break the covenant, it's still enforceable. But in this scenario, it's enforceable by God. So the 1776 Declaration of Independence was a biblical covenant, a promise by the founding fathers to God that all men are created equal. And in return, God's promise was to bless the United States. And the United States was born the greatest nation in the world. The promise was binding. However, in November, like I talked about earlier of last year, we the people allowed the election to be infiltrated by a godless communist foreign power. And thus, God was removed. So the blessing was temporarily removed. So for a season, Jean-Claude, meaning a year. So because biblically a season could be 3 months, but when God speaks, like a year is like 1,000 days. So he uses certain words, but a season in this scenario would relate to 360 days or a cycle or a circle.
Okay.
And so that's going to take us all the way back to November. And that lines up with the page above us when on November 22nd, 180 degrees, Goliath falls on his face. When Goliath falls on his face, the builder comes back, or however this is going to play out. I'm just assuming the builder comes back, but Goliath falls, and now we need to rebuild, go backwards to May 21st. There'll be another 180 days into next May of next year to complete the 360-degree circle. So by May of next year, everything's back on target. But all heck is about to break loose because we only passed 90 degrees so far. So now we got the next 90 degrees, which is where Goliath falls. And then who the heck knows on the next 180 days forward, from that point forward. But by May of next year, things are back on target and everything's it's the way it's supposed to be. So what does that mean? Well, if you look at what a year of Jubilee is, because this directly ties into a year of Jubilee. So I think that would be on page 3 or 4 on your end there, if you can pull that up.
There you go.
Yeah, so there it is right there. So actually go to page below that, please. So I think this is the definition of a Jubilee on the right side there. So it's a year of rest. It's a holy year. So this is really important because you were asking about my next cycle date of September 6th.
Right.
So the holy year, the year of rest, the year of Jubilee starts on September 6th. So that means that God's wrath, the events, the wow moment that we've all been waiting for I believe and is supposed to happen in the next 10 days. Because once we hit September 6th, Rosh Hashanah, that's the start of the new year. So I might be wrong on this assumption, but I would assume that in the next 10 days, we're going to see something crazy go off or occur. Because once we hit into the year of Jubilee, it's a year of rest. It's a holy year. And so what is it on top of that? Thou shalt return property and the clan. So the families reunite. So families come back together as one. Security. So you will dwell in a land securely, and the land will yield its fruits. So it means that peace and security is returned to the United States in the year of Jubilee. So that's why we're talking into May of next year. We're going to see, we're basically security is returned because we don't have that right now. Right. You will be blessed sufficient for 3 years. So the blessing itself is supposed to last up to 3 years. That takes us into 2024. And that lines up with my future cycle time points, if you in the latter part of the presentation, how 2025 is supposed to be utterly craziness is supposed to start, it's really supposed to get kind of chaotic, but we're supposed to have 3 years here of grace. So it actually Leviticus 25 lines up with the next 3 years of my calculations. And then a right to redeem means shall be released to recover property for a full year. So in other words, means are released. So money is released. So how do you release money? Well, you raise the value of God's money. You take down Goliath, and next thing you know, what happens is gold, silver, and then not that, and cryptocurrencies are all kind of tied to the part of the picture, but you see many of those three things go vertical. Particularly, this is really going to be the year for gold and silver coming up into next year, starting in September here as Rosh Hashanah hits. And we're going to really start to see a very powerful year for gold and silver. And again, particularly, right, when would silver and gold really start to gain strength and start to really rip vertical? Well, it shows you on the protractor page, actually the page right after that, because we're going to head into the new era starting in November. So that's when we should really, as much as gold and silver may start to move up, we're not going to see that explosive strength until minimum, I would say, as maybe October, particularly into here in November, is I think because the new era is a financial era, and it's the kingdom economy, and the kingdom economy is an economy of blessings, and it's of biblical money, God's money, gold and silver, not blessings of this paper fake monetary system.
Right. I love this last slide here too, because you have the imagery of the chain breaking. And to me, we've had quite a few psychics here very recently on the show too, and they're all seeing that sometime in September, it seems something is breaking, and they were referring to the manipulation. So whatever systems that were holding down gold and silver would break. So I love that the imagery is there as well. And of course, this was for September. So the beginning of it would be in September. And now if we go back to our last conversation too, Cliff High's WebBot data report was also predicting that $600 silver, but before Christmas. So that brings us into maybe that October, November timeline, which you're discussing now, where we might see the biggest strength as of yet, whereas September might be just the beginning act, so to speak.
Right. No, exactly. I looked, and I also overlay what I'm talking to you about today, Jean-Claude, and I also, I do pattern analysis on gold, silver, and cryptocurrencies. And the pattern analysis, this is actually quite interesting. Those who have my crypto analysis. So Bitcoin since July has made 8 turns. Do you know that our Bitcoin index, our analysis, has nailed every single one to the exact day so far since July? Like, it's freaky.
Wow.
I'll send it to you at the end of this, and you will see that since July, there's been 8 turns in Bitcoin. And the analysis, not only did it call the 8 turns, it called them to the exact day. And that's just an example of history repeating itself. So the cycles are replaying themselves. And so today, the 27th of August, is my start of the next upcycle. So for those who are involved in cryptocurrencies, just know that, if you're looking for, because it's been going up and then been battling at 50,000, and I wrote last week, it's going to get stuck at 50,000, and it won't be until this Friday, today, August 27th, when the upcycle resumes. And so watch what happens this weekend, or particularly watch what happens Monday. I think you're
very happy.
But it blows my mind that I literally wrote, the patterns back in July. And now yesterday's report was like, hey, so we've had 8 for 8 turns to the exact day. And so that gives me confidence in telling you what's coming in October. So as great as September is going to be, you ain't seen anything yet.
Right.
Watch what happens in October with crypto.
Right.
Okay. So, but then the problem that I see with crypto is it's going to hit a roof. And I ran my Fibonacci circles, and I was looking at when time could run out, and then lining it up with my crypto patterns on Bitcoin, and it runs out of time. Not yet, but later this year, so it's going to run out of time. And when that happens, there's no support down to we could see an 80 to 90% correction off this crash. So off of the next move, and then it's going to go crazy vertical again. But we're going to, we could see this massive drop later in crypto, and then it's going to go to 500,000 and a million or whatever crazy numbers it'll go to. But that lines up with the third seal of Revelation, which is a financial collapse, and that lines up for the year 2022. And I cover that later in the slides down low. But all of it points to a huge stock market crash next year, 2022. So we'll see, but I believe cryptos are going to get kind of wrapped up in that, and gold and silver on the other end. That's why gold and silver you can't just have cryptos, because gold and silver in the crash actually have strength. So they, for the first time, I believe they're going to separate from crypto for a period and actually really rip vertical. So we'll see. But I do know, I feel very confident about the patterns that we're looking at right now. And it's just the fact that we've had this accuracy with Bitcoin. I'm telling you, as great as September is going to be, it's not September.
Right.
It's actually October that is going to cause fireworks for those who have crypto.
And you're not alone when you talk about this maybe 90% retracement after this next bull run here. That was also in the Webbot data, and he was looking at probably around December of this year, where that Bitcoin could go back down to about 90% retracement from where it will be at that point. Where it will be at that point, I don't know. Is it 150,000? Some people like Max Kaiser say maybe 225,000 by December. Who knows? But we could see that 80 to 90% retracement was that prediction there as well. So you're not alone there. So
interesting. Yeah. To me, it's really critical because all I know is there's going to be a big drop, and I do have the cycles has been so accurate. It's really kind of exciting because there's no nervousness at all. I'm just how long to stay in, and finally when it's time to get out, I think it's really going to be an important exit, because even if it drops 70, it's going to be big because there's no support on this drop. When I ran the patterns, there's very little support. It can be deep, and so. But the exciting question is, why does Bitcoin jump to 100 right now? Because the crash is less important right now. Because we can talk about that later. Right. The question right now is, why does Bitcoin jump to 100, or maybe 200? Right. Because of the 800-pound gorilla.
Yeah.
And this is how this is playing out. It's the fall of Goliath. Goliath is taken out by the 800-pound gorilla. And I don't know how better to describe that, but we've never had a scenario where those that control the world reserve currency have to go against Russia,
right?
To defend it.
Not only to defend it, but to defend it with a guy who has very low approval ratings and even less cognitive abilities, apparently. So our country's not in good shape here. It's
and I think it's like the perfect storm, right? You have all the stars, lining up. And when this event goes down, I don't think it's going to take more than a few days, where it all just starts to crumble, so
right.
And that he's just going to be a piece of the equation.
So we've talked about how gold and silver are going to start making their move maybe here in September, but the really big moves are in October, November. Now let's talk to the people who might not have their positions yet in physical gold and silver. To me, every day is a good day to buy silver. It's all the idea of dollar cost averaging and taking your time over time. But these are pressing times, and this is not normal. We're at an historic pivotal point here. What would you say to the audience who've been kind of like, oh, I don't know, what do I do? My parents tell me my money's safe in the banks, and the TV's telling me my retirement funds are okay, but Bo's telling me this. I don't know. I see the Afghanistan thing, but I don't know. What would you tell those people right now?
Well, the first thing is, it's not my position to tell people what to do. Neither is it yours. We provide information, Jean-Claude, for people. Hey, this is what I'm doing. Right? I own precious metals. Why? Actually, I haven't listened to that video, but it on your YouTube, these videos hit, so I guess Mike Maloney showed them earlier, 10 reasons why I went all in on silver, right? I'll just give you one reason why I went on silver, because God said that he's going to raise his money, gold and silver. So what better reason do you need than that? And we're heading into a kingdom economy, when a kingdom economy is Christ is right. King. His kingdom is God's kingdom. It's not a religion. People say, I'm not religious. Christianity, just in the simplest form, Christ showed up on earth as God. Period. He's king. Okay. And he walked on earth and he was building his kingdom. Period. He's going to come back as king to fulfill prophecy. It's not a religion. Everything that was created after that is a religion because they're created by man. So
Right.
why would you create a religion? Well, you take this and you remove that part of it to make it fit your needs, and now you can control people.
Control mechanism.
Control mechanisms, right? You showed earlier the chains, right? What are those chains? You know, what do they do in the time of Pharaoh, right? They threw chains in everybody. You don't. And what's the best form? I've said this earlier. What's the best form of slavery? Have people enslaved and have them not know that they're enslaved.
Yeah.
How
they're free range slaves.
Right. So you tell me you're free, right? But get back to work, peasant, because you got to pay Caesar the interest on the money that we just created out of thin air.
Right. Exactly.
Like the whole thing's a joke, right? The whole financial system is a Ponzi scheme, and all Ponzi schemes come to an end. You know, and so Mike, so you ask, you know, should you buy
slowly at first and then very quickly?
Very quickly, you know, like Greg Hunter says, you know, Ponzi scheme, the fraud ends fast.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
So you have to, you know, so you simply ask yourself a question, you know, do I want to buy gold and silver? I don't know. What do you feel in your heart that you want to do? Is Bo and Jean-Claude crazy? I don't know. I guess it's a fine line, right?
Well, we might be crazy, but it doesn't mean we're wrong. So
folks, exactly, that's my point. Well, you know, it's just that, you know, there's a fine line between crazy and genius. You know, I don't know whatever you want to call it, but there's a fine line between crazy and the truth, right?
Exactly.
And you know, and until you see the truth, you don't see it, so you're blind to it, right? So, do you want to buy gold and silver? I don't know. I put my savings, my life savings, and my family's life savings into more of my family's life savings into it, because it's not about me, it's my family. Right. You know, and I do what I do for the glory of God. You know, I've been blessed. You know, seriously, the fact that I do what I do, I've been so blessed, Jean-Claude, that I'm glad to let people know of what I see coming in the act. Go look at my charts, go look at my analysis. There is nothing. The accuracy is there, you know, and so the point being is that, you know, we've got this financial system that's about to come online. It's the kingdom economy. Gold and silver are going to be, you know, the monetary instruments. The latest prophecy, one of the prophecies in silver was silver will be used in department stores to buy goods.
Incredible. It's just incredible.
This is the prophecy of what's coming, and silver is, you know, is going to be, because it's used industrially, it disappears as used. So there's less silver than there is gold. So at some point, silver mathematically is just going to go off the charts. Relative, you know, it's going to, as good as great and as awesome as gold is going to be. Silver just has huge, substantially more upside, and as amazing as gold is. So if you don't know silver, buy gold, whatever you want to do, you know, whatever you want to do, but just know that mathematically, my analysis and my, you know, my understanding is that silver is going to has huge, way more upside relative to that of gold. And as amazing as gold's going to be, because it's the kingdom economy, silver's going to be better.
Well, think about it.
And that will give you the numbers that, you know, that you talked about earlier, $600, you know, because I don't get data like that. You know, if Cliff's data is picking 600, the guy's a genius. Okay. You can't say anything wrong about the guy's a genius.
And again, okay, so let me finish on that too. 600 was the opening act. Next year, maybe by the end of next year, parity with gold, and after that, maybe surpassing gold, to the point where he said that maybe silver would be too valuable to transact as money. We would go back to gold for day-to-day transaction, and silver would be the big guy. You know, that's not crazy too, because Jim Sinclair was saying, when this thing goes, silver is going to be like gold, but on steroids.
On steroids, right.
Right. So, folks, if you guys are looking into getting some physical silver into your own hands, this is the special that Andy Scheckman from Miles Franklin gave the Beyond Mystic audience yesterday in our weekly precious metals wrap up. So please check it out at beyondmystic.net/silver. These are the 1 ounce silver kangaroos here at a special rate of $380 over spot. So go check that out if you're looking into getting some of that physical into your own hands. And before all this craziness starts, that's the whole point here. You don't want to buy your insurance after the horses are in
you know, and just for a second, you know, talk to Andy, because he will confirm this. So in February of this year, I remember, I was at church and, I'm checking the what's going on with the markets, and you literally could not buy silver on Sunday. It was a weekend in February because news went out, silver went up $2, and they literally shut down every single exchange that was selling silver. You couldn't get it, and they basically stated until markets open, we got everything on hold. Why? Because there's a thing called limit up. And limit up basically means that they got triggers, they got gap ups. So it basically says at $3, the markets will shut off. But then there's a 5-minute window, and then they open up again. And so they put those safety mechanisms in for their benefit, not for ours, because they knew one day, maybe something might happen. So they get to shut the markets down before they open back up. But at some point in time, there is a reason for these triggers for them to have in the markets, because they know they could, they don't want to lose control, but they know they might one day may. And when they lose control, it's going to be epic. And good luck.
They've been
good luck on trying to log into any store or exchange and pick some silver up. You won't be able to. So you really
it's not just a question of whether they have it in inventory or not, because it's going off the shelves, but it's also the dealer saying, hey, wait a second, it just increased by 50% yesterday. Maybe I should wait another day. It'll increase by another 100%. So they're holding back also their inventory to play this game. So
and if they sell, they can't replenish their inventory. So let's say jumping up, they have to sell silver at $30, but then 2 weeks later, no one can buy it. It's all shut down. And then 2 weeks later, they go in to restash their inventory, and now it's $200 an ounce. I'm just making up numbers, okay?
Right.
But you have to understand, damages are sevenfold in the Bible. So the damages will immediately pay. So 7 times 25 is like what? $175. So when they open it up, you might have silver at $175. I don't know. I have no idea. I'm telling you, biblically, damages are sevenfold, and those usually need to be paid pretty quick. So don't be surprised that you see numbers like that relatively quickly. And I promise you, the dealers are not going to be happy paying $175 a coin when they sold them for $35 a couple days earlier, or a week or whatever earlier. You see what I'm saying? So you're right. If I was the dealer, I would shut down the store, and maybe in a month from now I might open it up, or 2 weeks from now I'll probably open it up when things calm down. And then I'll see where the prices are at, and then I'll sell. And because of the bottom line is not only selling, but you have to replenish your inventory.
Right. And, just going back again, just to show people, we might be crazy, but it doesn't mean we're wrong. And again, we're in very good company here. In your chart, you were just talking here that silver might start moving here in September, but the real action would be in October and November. Well, this was Cliff High replying to a tweet from David Morgan here, who's making a comment about Gunlock's prediction here that we were on this roadmap to losing the gold reserve, the world reserve currency. And Cliff was saying, yeah, Mr. Silver, the silver guru, David Morgan, is correct. My thinking is that the world reserve currency will be gone by March of 22. But here's the kicker. Most of the damage meltdown should happen this October and November.
Okay, so now go to page 12, or go to the compass, the protractor. So let's look at that. So what is it telling you? 180 days is November 22nd. What would be, so 180 days plus another 90 takes it to March of next year.
There you go.
Okay. And then you got 3 more months, takes you to May, and then it's all over.
Yeah.
So everything that you just stated lines up on that protractor 360 degrees on that cycle. So we went left. So the page following that was, again, we went wrong. The covenant was broken. God for a season showed us evil. We've seen it. Now hit November, we're going to basically go 360 in the opposite direction, take us all the way back. And that ends in May. But March would be 180 degrees from August 24th, just a couple of days ago.
There you go.
So wow. there's and that's what I was given. It's just each day is a degree, and by the time the cycle is complete, it's over. So do people want to know, what is gold going to be doing this whole time? What are the patterns for gold? Well, I'm not going to give that away particularly, but it's really not that hard to figure out. Look at the protractor.
Right. Right.
It's the rise of God's kingdom. This is, I write in my reports, my gold report, what's coming is the greatest financial event in human history. and actually I was on your show, I believe, and I know it was with Greg Hunter and maybe one other interview I did in an early part of August. And I said, gold itself is not, you can buy it now, but you have a little time still. This is what I said in the early part of our interviews of August. So you still have time into the end of the month. Well, we're at the end of the month now.
Yep.
Okay. So there's little to zero time left to position yourself.
Yeah.
And we've got 10 days away from September 6th. So what's going to happen in the next 10 days? I don't know. But I do know that one of the prophets clearly stated mass earthquakes are expected. So, when God moves, usually you have earthquakes associated with it, volcanoes going off. It's biblical, right? Yeah. It's powerful. So is that going to happen next 10 days? I don't know. I just know that prophetically it was spoken. Does it mean this feast date? I think it does. But the point is, I would expect immense, powerful events, potentially maybe the next 6 days, or maybe just as Rosh Hashanah starts in the 10 days of awe, because Rosh Hashanah starts on the 6th, then you have the 10 days of awe, which takes you to September 16th. So maybe is it there? I don't know. But I don't want to be sitting on the wrong side of this one, Jean-Claude.
Nope.
To answer your question, to buy gold and silver, I don't know. People need to do what feels right in their hearts. But for me, to not hold God's money at this point in time would be absolutely insane. As much as I've been buying it over the years, at this moment in time, if I didn't have silver in my possession, I don't know. I would not be sleeping right now. So that's where I'm at personally. I don't know where you are.
Personally, but, me too. Yes. So again, folks, if you're looking in for silver, last couple of days here, perhaps in this timeline for you to get this cheap. And as Cliff High was saying in his last interview, they are subsidizing you right now with their criminality to get silver at these low prices. So take advantage of that. I wanted to bring this last slide up before we go here, Bo. I thought it was interesting. It was Benjamin Fulford. I don't see if I had the slide 2 seconds ago. Basically, he was saying that the withdrawal from the troops in Afghanistan was not maybe as it was being portrayed, that he had contacts at the Pentagon suggesting that perhaps these troops were being repositioned in North America for something big to come. So that would also fit in the timelines of maybe earthquakes, earth changes, God moving his hands, and the country needing all of its military in place on the continent. What do you say to that?
Yeah, I don't know much. I don't follow him. I don't know anything about what he has to say. I just, I can't comment on what he's saying.
No, what he's saying, but the idea may be that there's a foreseeing of your timeline here by other powers be, and they're trying to move the chess pieces around the board to maybe prepare for what is about to come.
Well, why don't you look at it maybe this way? You've got 9/11 coming, right? That's like a very powerful day. We're 20 years to it, to the 9/11 this September, right? But the challenge that I think those in the 9/11 camp have is Rosh Hashanah is on the 6th.
Yeah.
So I think we see, and again, God specifically, no one knows a day or the hour of the Christ's return. And the reason is because if that was exposed, then evil at the evil side would try to counter the moves.
Right.
And so God always has the magic card, the wild card. That's why some of the psychics I mentioned to you in the past, sometimes can't see too far or not 100% sure. And the reason for that is because there's points in the time that God doesn't reveal what his plan is.
Right.
And we're at a point like that where we just, we don't know what his plan is. So I don't know what he's going to do something tomorrow, next week, but the next 10 days are definitely interesting to me. Okay. And even the next 10 after that, because we're in the 10 days of awe. Right. So I don't know, but the next 20 days are rather exciting, potentially for something maybe to go down. So who knows? But it's interesting that if you have technically the year of Jubilee starts the year of rest, because if God's going to rest, he's going to start his rest on September 6th. He's going to rest for a year after he does his. Remember, when God parted the Red Sea, within 12 hours, whatever the time they crossed, he closed the sea with that 12 hours, maybe a day, 8 hours. I don't know, whatever, but it was over in a day, right?
Right.
By that next day, it was a new world.
Yeah.
You couldn't go back. The Red Sea was closed. You couldn't go back on the other side of the sea. It was closed. The event was over. Time had now shifted, and we're on a, the Israelites. Israel was on a new railroad track going in a new direction because that era was over. The sea was closed. You couldn't go back. So this event that's coming, I don't know what or events, whatever it is, it's going to be quick, rapid, sudden, short-lived, and within a very short window of time, it's over. But you will never go back. You'll never be able to go back to the world that we live in today because everything's changed. And then after that happens, God sits back and rests for the next year because he already planned it all. And then let the dominoes fall as they may.
Absolutely fascinating, as always, Bo. Let the audience know here, those who want to trade maybe gold and silver here with your gold index and your Bitcoin index, let them know here what offers and services you have on your website and what could be of interest to them.
So on the website, go to my website, gold2020forecast.com. First off, Jean-Claude, I've provided just all this information because I just love, I want to awaken the world just as you do, to the truth. That's what I do. And so, but then, yes, I've analyzed patterns, I studied history, and I've discovered how cycles work. And so, yes, I've applied that and I created what's called a Bitcoin index. And so for those people who are traders who really want to capitalize financially on what's coming and know the patterns and to be able to predict in advance, just like my viewers knew 2 weeks ago that, Bitcoin turns up today, the 27th of August, right? We knew that 2 weeks ago. We knew that in July already, So the point, if you're looking to want those specifics, go to my website, Gold 2020 Forecast, get the Bitcoin index. And when you subscribe to the Bitcoin index, you'll actually get the patterns. You'll know the patterns into September, then October, and then into November. You'll know there's actually a date that's supposed to be a massive spike. Will it happen on that date or within 24 hours of it? I would say, yeah. So there's a big move coming here in October. So the patterns are replaying themselves. And so those involved in crypto want to know patterns, want to know dates. That's all in there. Use the code MYSTIC49. It'll take the $99 price for 2-week trial. It'll reduce it to $49 for you. So if you're a trader, you want to know patterns, you want to know when you should, maybe get in and get out. If you want to know what dates are critical dates, if you're looking to get out, when you get this massive spike later in the year, when it could drop, we got that in the patterns. Those are things that, if people are interested in, you're more than welcome to get it. Otherwise, everything I provided today, I want to inform the world. What do we say? Precious metals, right? Gold and silver, cryptocurrencies, the gold turn dates, also same thing too. We've got patterns for gold and silver, but the patterns of gold and silver are like we saw, more manipulated. But the Bitcoin patterns, they can't manipulate them that much. It's rather fascinating. They are holding strong and steady. And since July, it's fascinating that we 8 of 8 turns so far to the day. So really fascinating. Those who have zero clue about cryptocurrencies and don't even know how to buy a Bitcoin, I created a flow chart, gave it to my son. He created all the videos. Easy Crypto School shows you how to start. You can get your money out of the bank into crypto, how to move all the coins around, coins you want to get, and ultimately store them safely. As you know, Jean-Claude, that's the key. Get them off the exchange
in your possession.
Safely in your possession. Yeah. So all of that's covered for, use the code. It reduces, I think, from $80 down to $39. For $39, you basically, if you follow these videos step by step, you will not screw up. You won't lose a penny. And that's the key, is so many people lose money in crypto because it's so easy, because there's so many mistakes that can be made.
Especially when you're new, trying to set up your wallet, get your passwords and all that. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. So this video is for each step of the way. So if you're interested, that's available to you as well too. But, the bottom line is, go back, re-listen to this interview. I think we covered a lot of really powerful information, Jean-Claude. And I think we are at a precipice in terms of time. If this is truly going to be a year of Jubilee, and I would tell you it's going to be, because we've already got confirmation. First off, if you go back to the protractor, right? The fact that it's happened, the protractor itself, the dates right now are 100% on target. So we've got, for May 26th was a center of time. We go all the way up to the August 15th, and that's literally the fall of Kabul. And then you got the peace, and then you have this signing of the documents between Saudi Arabia and Russia on the 24th. That's fully confirming the pattern sequence. And so And right now in the pattern, I believe if this is we're going to head into a year of Jubilee. We're at a Google Isaiah 61:2. And Isaiah 61:2 specifically states, the Spirit of the Lord is upon me, because he has anointed me to bring good news to the poor. He has sent me to comfort the brokenhearted and to proclaim that the captives will be released and prisoners will be freed. To proclaim, this is it, the year of the Lord's favor. So that's the year of Jubilee. And the day of vengeance of our God. So remember, we talked about it's day. There is a day that's coming that everything changes and we can never go back.
Mm-hmm.
Will the day happen in the next 10 days? Could. It might. Maybe in the 10 days of awe. But I'm telling you, this thing is going to go off.
Either way.
Before we go into October.
Right. Things are not equal. And as Andy was saying the other day, the big money, the sovereign wealth funds, they are all taking possession of physical silver at a rapid clip like never seen before, especially this year. It's completely inverted from the business models from last year. So the big money, what people call smart money, have already been taking physical silver and gold off the markets here for quite a bit of time. So they're forecasting, perhaps they're reading Bo's reports here. So Dean says, why are you guys still here? Go buy silver. Yeah, I agree, guys. Go buy silver. All right, folks, that was the death of the petrodollar here with Bo Polny. You can find his work at gold2020forecast.com and subscribe to his newsletter there as well. And you can find all of his free videos here on YouTube at Gold2020Forecast. Now, please do remember to like, share, and subscribe here on our third backup channel at Jean-Claude at Beyond Mystic 3. And stay tuned for more special reports here in the next couple of days, including that of Jim Willie, that will probably be recorded either Saturday or Sunday here, and will be available for the audience here on the pay-per-view, because it will be one of those amazing uncensored episodes. So thank you so much, everyone, for joining. Merci beaucoup, Bo, for your presentation and your time today. Really appreciate it. Have a great day, sir, and have a great weekend. Au revoir, everyone.
God bless.